Hey, what's up, guys? Today I'm going to show you how to route audio to physical outputs on your X16 or your X8 or your XAP, whatever, using console and having the fader outputs control each individual set of speakers. You could also run plugins through those. So you end up with something like this. So here it is coming through my A77Xs. And then here it is through my NS10s, my Neumanns, my IKs, my Avatones. You'll notice the volume knob isn't moving here. It's actually moving up here. We'll get to that. My JBL's out in the back. And that's running through this guy. So how am I doing this? Basically, I'm using virtual channels. All of these, I deleted everything on my console except for the virtual channels just to make this easy to look at and easy to understand. My vocal. So virtuals 1 and 2, 3 and 4, 5 and 6. So these are linked, obviously. 7 and 8. These are the virtual channels for the X16. The hardware that I'm using today, I got, here, let me get out, I gotta get out of that. There we go. I'm using my X16 and my X4. So I've got the X16 as the primary. That's important. But once that's there, then that's how I can get line 1 and 2, line 3 and 4, line 5 and 6, line 7 and 8 routed as outputs inside of console. And then for the other ones, I'm actually using the virtual channels 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8 on my X4. I'm using the virtual channels there. But you can see I was messing around with the volumes. I'm actually setting those. I'm not using the physical outputs here because you see we don't have them. We don't even have the ability to select them here. Instead, what I'm using is the Qs. So I'm just using Q 1, 2, 3, and 4 to kind of complement, finish up the last 4 channels of the output. Now, the way that works, I've set the source on the Qs to 1, 2, 3, and 4 instead of listening to the mix. We're listening to the actual cue, and we're setting, this is where the outputs go. So mirror to output 9, 10, 11, 12. Q3 is 13, 14, and then 15, 16 for Q4, right? Now, you might be thinking, okay, but then how do you do your headphones? I'm actually sending my headphones to a headphone amp out of the actual 1 and 2, like the monitor out of my X16. So that way it ends up working beautifully because you can mirror to output, meaning mirror to headphones if you wanted to, or if you had, if you were just running just the monitor output, that like mutes all of your speakers, and you can have you have that set up where you're listening to nothing but your headphones. So I think this is the way that UAD should have done it, to be honest. It just sounds, it just works better. So anyway, I'll show you how I hooked this all up. Basically, we're doing all of our work inside of the console settings menu. So settings, and then we go to the IO matrix, and we're setting up IO presets where we're swapping out the 1 and 2 on the output side. That's it. That's the secret here. Anything that comes from YouTube or anywhere else in your computer, if you're running Windows, I think it works the same way in Mac, but when you're running Windows, you set up so that you're listening to Universal Audio Thunderbolt, right? And that's your speaker output. That's so that YouTube, whatever, I listen to a lot of YouTube, obviously. I said it a couple times here. But yeah, so anything on your computer, games, whatever, it all comes through the speakers output for as far as Windows is concerned. So what is that? Technically, that's outputs 1 and 2 on the IO matrix on console's settings menu. So whatever you've got routed here, that's what Windows thinks it's going to use as your output. So right now, this is looking at virtuals 3 and 4. Normally this is set up to be here. Actually, I have a button for this. Ta-da. So normally it should be monitor L and monitor R. If you open up your IO matrix right now, that's what you have. That's like the default. But what I'm doing is I'm swapping that out. I'm switching it. Instead of using the monitor left and monitor right, instead I go to the digital or no, virtual. And then I choose a pair of virtuals. So like virtual 1 here. I'll just scoot this guy out of the way. And then I'll say for number 2, I'll use virtual 2. So now I'm sending all audio, like whatever would be considered the master output, for all computer sounds. Your DAW, like if you have your DAW set to send all of its audio to 1 and 2, this will actually send all of that audio to virtual 1 and 2 instead of the actual monitor output on the back of the X16. So then virtual 1 and 2 is this guy right here, virtual 1 and 2. I just named it A77X because those are the speakers I'm using on this channel. But once you set virtual 1, 2 here, basically that audio starts here and comes down and goes through the plugin strip, which is freaking awesome because you can also run all of your UAD plugins through that set of speakers, and it's only for that one set of speakers. It's so rad. But anyway, all that audio comes through, your plugins, whatever, and then you would just set the actual, where does it go? Here, what physical outputs does it go to? And this is where I use the DB, like I use like a DB25 breakout cable with like male XLRs, and that's how I'm just splitting them, and I'm sending them out to line 1 and 2 on virtual 1 and 2. I'm setting it to line outputs 3 and 4 on virtual 3 and 4, and then I'm swapping it here with my IO presets. I just have a bunch of presets saved here, and I'm doing it with a MIDI controller, but you can also do it manually here with, just swapping these presets. You can see my preset called 02 NS10s X16 V34034. That means virtual 3.4 output 3.4, right? It's just naming convention that I used. But this now sets it up so that I'm using virtual 3 and 4 as my outputs. And then that means the audio comes into here, goes through my plugin strip, and then goes to physical outputs, line 3 and 4. And I can control the volume here. So this is loaded now. I'm going to play some more of my royalty-free rock music on YouTube. And that's coming through my NS10s. And I've got control here on console, or I got a MIDI program that was made by Radu, this awesome dude who made this stuff himself. What was his name? Radu Antonio Varga, I think is his name. Awesome. So he made this software that allows you to MIDI control and MIDI. I can switch speakers here. I can switch these speakers, and I don't have to touch console at all. I don't have to use my mouse on this at all. So pretty freaking awesome. So yeah, pretty awesome. And then the next set here, these Avatones, you can see, or well, maybe you can hear it through my microphone. I'm adjusting the volume here, but you can't hear it. Like you're not seeing this this fader move. I'm actually moving the Q fader. And the way that works, I've got on the Q outputs, Q1, which is the fader I'm moving here. Wait, I'm looking at the wrong one. Here we go. I'm moving Q1, right? And then I just set Q1 to source for Q1, right? Instead of mix. By default, these are all on mix. You just set them Q1, Q2, Q3, Q4, whatever. You can ignore the headphone thing here. It doesn't really matter. But then the mirror to output, this is going to my X16's line out 9 and 10. So I'm using those as my physical outputs. And so it's pretty much the same principle. We start here at the IO matrix. The virtual 1 and 2 are for the X4. These are X4s 1 and 2, which is this dude is called Avatone here, virtual 1 and 2. So that means any audio from my DAW that's being sent to 1, 2 on the DAW normally, or any audio that's coming through YouTube, like it is right now with my royalty-free rock music, is coming through the Avatones because I'm sending it to, on the IO matrix, I'm saying 1 and 2 equals virtual 1, virtual 2. So that comes into this channel strip here. I've got my plugins that I can dick around with if I want to. And then I'm sending it out via the queue. And then the queue is picking it up and sending it to a physical output, lines 9 and 10. So I know that's crazy convoluted, but if you just watch this video a couple times, maybe pause it and just follow step by step, you might be able to do exactly what I'm doing. All right. So yeah, pretty freaking cool. I think. And then with the main monitor output, that's actually my headphones. Like I've just got like a Little Labs, headphone amp, and that's what I'm listening to my voice with right now. And so I can actually turn this up and down, and that affects my vocal as far as my headphones go, but it doesn't affect the vocal as far as how it sounds in the DAW or how it, if it's coming out of a pair of speakers. I don't have to worry about it feeding back because I've got speakers on and I turn it up and whatever. It's only coming through my headphones, and my headphones are the main monitor output. And so I can also send some of this audio if I wanted to, at least for these 4 channels here. I can hit mirror to monitor. So I can also listen to what's being sent via the fader here. Pretty cool. So yeah, let's go over the software that I'm doing most of this work on. It's this guy right here, UA Midi Control. This is the stuff that's made by my boy Radu. Awesome stuff. I think it's like $60 or something. It's so worth it. It's 100% worth it. I wish UAD would have incorporated this. It's so stupid that they haven't. I can't believe they haven't. Anyway, so you're basically working from left to right, right? So you can see these are named just like I named my audio channels. So I've got ISO 1. Here it is, ISO 1. And it's talking about all of the controls within ISO 1. This is that channel strip. You can mess around with, you can load presets with a button, or if you wanted to, like the CVOX, you can do whatever you want. It's pretty awesome. But let's stick, I'll stick to what I'm doing. It's what I'm trying to show you in this video instead of just going off on this stuff. So anyway, how do I have these buttons loading presets from the IO matrix? Like I have, all of these. Maybe I didn't explain that part fully enough. Anyway, I'm jumping around here. Sorry. I didn't script this video. So sorry. I'm going to jump back into the IO matrix and explain how I made it so that these buttons will actually set up and switch. You can see I'm switching here, the different virtual channels. How is this working? What is happening here? I'm basically saving an IO preset. So I set the physical outputs 1 and 2. Well, I guess this is the IO matrix outputs 1 and 2. I set those to my virtual channels that are represented here and are sending to actual hardware outputs. Once I set those up, then I just I click on where the title is here, and I go to save as, and I'm just saving down an individual preset. I might have already said this. I'm just saying it again. So anyway, you've got all those presets there, and you want to use a MIDI button to load those. So you just scroll down all the way down to the bottom here to where it says extra, and then I'm in IO presets. So you have your presets that are just normal for your console if you wanted to. What I'm doing today, it's the IO presets. So you just select one of them. Like I'll select this guy here, and you just hit start. You can see this turns red. Whatever is highlighted in blue, if you hit a button, like I hit this button here, it's going to map. So here, I'll hit the wrong button. So you can see it changes to note 2, so that it just have like this button here is MIDI note number 2. So I'll just hit it again, MIDI note number 1. There you go. So now it's going to listen to MIDI note number 1, and it's going to load. Watch here. It loads that preset. So pretty awesome. And then as far as the volumes go, you just have to find the virtual channel itself. So for instance, A77X, we go up to monitoring. Remember, we're working from left to right here. So this is my virtual 1 and 2. I named it A77X, and it'll show up with the same name right here. Then we go to monitoring, and we're just going to go to the volume, and we'll just listen. We'll hit start, and I just move this. Like here, for instance, I'll just go ahead and remove the selected so it's blank. All right, so here, pretend it was never there to begin with. We go into A77X, volume. I hit start, and then I just move my volume, and it picks it up immediately. It knows that this physical output here that I'm doing is now assigned to this knob. And you can see that when I hit stop, if I move this, right? Pretty awesome. Now, remember with the second half here, the Avatones, JBLs, Workspace, and Bedroom, these are all set up with their own volumes, but they're all set up on the Q level because we don't get the selector for the physical output here. Instead, we're doing the physical output here in the Q section, right? So we want to be able to control, instead of jumping into this Q menu and having to, it's like extra clicking. It's like, who wants to do that, right? So instead, you would go into this guy here. Which one am I touching? JBL. So we go to JBL, and then it wouldn't be the monitoring. It would be inside the Q. So I would go to Q. I think it's Q3. No, Q2. Yeah. So Q2 for JBL. Right, you can see that here. I'm Q1, Q2, Q3, Q4. So the JBL one is Q2. I would just go here. I'll remove it just so you can see me map it. I'll hit start, move the dial. It automatically picks it up like right away. And then now it controls. You can see it without having to open this guy. If I open it up, you can see it. So now it's controlling for that volume. So pretty awesome stuff, man. One thing to note, if you're like me and you have a loopback in your DAW, like for instance, you want to record stuff in your DAW, like stuff from the internet, stuff like a YouTube sample or whatever, Spotify, whatever. You might want to have a loopback set up inside your DAW. I do that by selecting for here. If I just did, there we go. If I just had monitor there, yeah, okay. So this is just loud for me. Yeah, see, that's kind of the fun of this. You don't hear that at all, but I can hear that. Sorry. You don't even know what I'm talking about, do you? All right. Anyway, we're talking about loopback. If you wanted to have a loopback into your DAW, you would normally just set up an input that is the same thing as what's in your monitor output, left and right, which would normally be outputs 1 and 2's, assignment. You would just have to go into inputs, and then you go to monitor, and you would listen to Mon 1 and 2, and that would be your loop back in your DAW. But if I go and I change this to, virtual 3/4, you then, in order to maintain the loop back, you have to use the exact same inputs on the input side. So like this is just like my inputs and outputs. This is on the input side, I've got virtual in 3 and 4, as well on the output sides, I've got virtual in 3 and 4. So we know why I'm doing virtual 3/4 here. The reason I'm doing virtual 3/4 on the input side is so that I maintain my loop back inside my DAW. So that's probably not going to make a lot of sense to anybody, except for people who actually do, loopback stuff. Hopefully that helps them figure out why it's only working under certain conditions and not working under others. All right. So yeah. Last thing. Skip it. All right. I've done a lot of tweaking with this stuff, and I've kind of got it, working awesome for me, but there's just so much to go over. I don't even want to bother. This is enough information. It's probably a 30-minute video or something. Hey, Jason from the future here. Just wanted to add one more thing about the loopback. If you're using plugins in your channel strips, these plugins will be heard by your DAW inside the loopback, unless you go into the inserts, and you change them, all of the virtual channels, you change it to monitor. This way, the plugins will be heard through the speakers themselves, but the plugins will not be heard inside the DAW. So just change all of these. This wouldn't affect you. For people who aren't doing loopback, this is totally fine too. You can still do this. You should do this as like a final step. But yeah, for anyone using loopback, if you set the channel inserts to monitor, then the plugins won't affect the audio being played into your DAW. All right, back to the other video. Thanks. But yeah, hopefully this helps. It's freaking awesome to be able to have plugins on your fucking master fader for an individual set of speakers. The individual set of speakers has their own knob. That's beautiful. And it all works off of hardware. That's so fucking awesome. I don't know why UAD doesn't just do this. You know, like they have to know that Radu's software exists. They have to know. How do they not know? And how have they not licensed it from this guy? It pisses me off. Anyway, I'm so glad that it's here. Regardless, I'm so glad that it just works. And yeah, I hope that this kind of inspires people to get into this kind of stuff and, you know, play around with it and make it more useful for you, which this, for me, this just like upped the usefulness of UAD Console like times 10. Well, times 2 at least. Let's go. Yeah, let's be realistic. Times 2. It made it a lot more useful to me. All right. Let me know if you have any questions and take it easy. See ya.